Water and streams are the workhorse of our society. Irrigation, industry, growing cities, drinking water. We harnessed their power and degraded them from their natural state.
It used to be a year-round perennial stream, but now it's not.
We're losing the water connectivity to the floodplain.
Majority of the time, there's no water to be found at all.
Stream restoration is an essential part of what Clark Fork Coalition brings to the table.
You're not going to do it with just one agency. You're not going to do it with just one landowner.
Everybody has to do what they can do on their property.
The environment suffers degradation by death from 1,000 cuts. These are all little band-aids to those cuts, but cumulatively we can really make a difference, and that's what we're trying to do here in Miller Creek.
The Miller Creek watershed is located in Missoula County. It contains homes, farms, and small businesses, and like other working valleys in western Montana, it is dependent on the water that flows through it. This story is about how a community has partnered with government agencies and nonprofit organizations to begin restoring the watershed.
Stream restoration is really exciting. It's the bread and butter to some degree of what we do to back up and correspond with the policy work that we do protecting Montana and specifically the Clark Fork River Basin's water quality and water quantity.
The United States passed the Clean Water Act in 1972 to protect water quality. The Montana Department of Environmental Quality oversees the Clean Water Act at the state level. But in 1975, the Montana legislature felt even more protections were needed and passed the Montana Natural Streambed and Land Preservation Act, also known as the 310 Law. The 310 Law protects streams and the riparian corridors that keep these streams natural. Regulation alone is not enough to protect streams. It takes landowner buy-in and people who want to be good stewards of the land.
Private conservation easements are one of the tools Five Valleys uses to protect land, and those are unique legal agreements we work with landowners to put in. They are designed to last in perpetuity, so forever. And the way they work is they limit the uses of a property, so that is often subdivision or development, in return for guaranteeing that the great values of a property, wildlife habitat, agricultural lands, water values remain for the landowner and for the rest of us forever.
If somebody's doing something to violate the Montana Natural Streambed and Land Preservation Act, such as mowing down to the stream, clearing that riparian vegetation, technically through that law, through the 310 law, the Conservation District can fine them $500 a day until they restore their property. The Missoula Conservation District's not really interested in fining people. We're interested in educating people.
Every year, because of where I live, I get postcards in the mail from Radley at the district and Travis at NRCS, and it's get a hold of us by September and we can come up with a plan to help you do restoration work of forestry, stream beds, stream bank, weeds, any of that stuff. And so I thought, well, here's a chance to get some expertise or something like that. I had no idea about the cost share or any of that when I signed up. I signed up because it was information, people could help with information.
Sometimes when these projects start, they look a little horrifying, but a couple years later, everything's grown back and is more robust than before and really playing a role to filter sediments, to shade the creek, to create these little habitat niches that are so important for fish and wildlife.
I'd seen 3 different properties get restored at that point in time, and we were starting to get some major erosion problems here. So I looked it all over and thought, well, this is probably a good idea before we create the Grand Canyon of Miller Creek. When things start showing up like 2 huge excavators and dump trucks, and they're hauling in rock and gravel and hauling off other stuff. So, oh my gosh, what are they doing today? As it starts to heal up from what they did, there's actually a real planning process in it, and having them carefully go through it with you makes it less scary.
Grants and other cost-sharing programs are a great way to incentivize landowners to implement good stewardship practices. These programs, combined with professional conservationists working for government agencies and nonprofit organizations, set standards, design plans, and pay for all or a portion of implementation and restoration activities that not only have the potential to increase property values and aesthetics, but also protect the public resources that move across private property boundaries.
The linchpin is finding those landowners who are willing to engage into a project and roll up their sleeves to do the work to make sure it's a success.
I don't lift things with my back anymore. I use the excavator for almost everything. To see what's happening with this whole project, I just love it, because when you drive up and down the Miller Creek, when you hit this place, it's like nirvana.
We're standing here on a private ranch about 10 miles up the creek from the confluence with the Bitterroot at the site of a project the Clark Fork Coalition finished about 6 years ago. This project was primarily paid for with DEQ 319 grants, and they were matched with FWP Future Fisheries because this is a stronghold for West Slope cutthroat. The objects of this restoration project were to increase trout numbers in the creek and mitigate sediment. Sediment is detrimental to trout spawning. It chokes off their redds where they lay their eggs. Miller Creek is actually listed as an impaired waterway for sediment, among other things.
We also had goals for habitat, so in some reaches we put a whole bunch of wood in the channel. The water coming into it hits that wood and it's going to go 10 different directions. And then that's going to create lots of different niches for young fish, older fish to live and grow in. Wood, though, in general is also an incredibly important just biological support for the system.
We worked with FWP biologists and did pre and post project electrofishing. And what the numbers showed is that we were able to double the number of trout in this reach. We're here 6 years later because we also were working with freshwater partners out of Bozeman, and part of the program allows for adaptive management.
The roughness in there will be good. And
Yeah. Well, should we plant some willows in here?
Yep. So I work for Montana Freshwater Partners. We offset impacts under the Clean Water Act. And so we were connected with JED and the Clark Fork Coalition, and we were able to contribute our mitigation funding towards 2 of the 6 reaches on this about 1 mile long section of stream on the property.
So today we're just getting a little more water on floodplains, adding a little more wood structure, and we're also building on what the beaver are already doing. Starting this year, they reappeared and are recolonizing the site. We believe that our restoration work here actually set up the conditions. We produced more food for the beavers. They really need aspen and willows, and they need deep pools for refuge from predators. We gave them some of those conditions, and that's what we're doing today, is giving them a little more. So this is a real positive turnaround. The beaver basically from here on out hopefully will do our work. We shouldn't have to do any more maintenance on this creek. They'll take over.
The more that I can make it better, the more effort I put into it with help from everybody that's helping, you know, the coalition, Trout Unlimited. It just all adds to it. Anything we can do to protect the stream and the land and the wildlife and the fish is what we want to leave behind for our legacy.
Miller Creek has a combination of individual smaller parcels and larger tracts of land. Industries such as ranching, which have traditionally and inadvertently degraded streams as they use water, now include emerging conservation leaders.
As those watersheds flow off the mountain and merge with Miller Creek, they eventually merge down with the Bitterroot River. And as they go through Miller Creek, they cross through several different conservation easement properties that we have with private landowners, including Oxbow Cattle Company. And Oxbow's done a lot of restoration work along their section of the creek.
These producers are showing that protecting the stream corridor and using regenerative agricultural practices to store more water in the soil is not only good stewardship, It also provides a better product, increases yields, reduces dependence on expensive inputs, and creates a more sustainable operation.
Taking care of the land is a huge aspect for us, and our grazing practices are to build soil and to increase biodiversity, and we've expanded that to protecting our riparian areas because they're so fragile and they're so valuable. If you look at the creek, it's in a really bad way. The biggest detriment to the creek is the elk and deer that come through here. They just nip off all the cottonwoods, willows, etc. And for example, we didn't even have a willow on this place until the first exposure went in 2017, and immediately we had natural recruitment of willows. We've put in these exposures that are about 6.5, 7 feet tall. They keep all deer and elk out as well as our cows, and we're just letting Mother Nature regenerate and heal herself. The other thing about it is because there is no cover on this creek, that evaporation rates as soon as it hits July and the sun is out, this creek just evaporates instantly. You can just see it on those sunny, hot days. And my belief is that if we can get this creek covered up with cottonwoods and willows and all that, I think the creek has a better chance.
When you put the land as your first priority and then the cattle and then the human, whether it's us or the community, then you start managing to improve the land instead of just use the land. One of the things that we are able to do with our values of regenerating the land and using animals to do that is to create a product and something that our community can feel good about eating, knows where it comes from. We also have created a little market where people can come and buy food, and it's on the honor system, so it makes it unique to our community and that we can trust them to come and buy beef without anybody stocking it, and in turn they can trust that we're producing what we say we're producing, a healthy product that truly is, you know, the best that we can do and as natural as we can do and as healthy for you as it can be.
Our little market is just, it's a relationship with our community is what it is, and all relationships are built on trust, and it's trust both ways.
We're out here at the Miller Creek project area. We did some eDNA samples back here to figure out which fish were present. We found that the West Slope cutthroat trout were genetically pure. This matters because they can hybridize with rainbow trout, and once you have these hybrids, you start losing the native fish.
Little Park Creek is home to some genetically pure West Slope cutthroat trout, which are kind of rare. We worked with Clark Fork Coalition a few years ago to install a fish barrier at Little Park Creek where the Little Park Creek Trail crosses it. Putting that fish barrier in kept the genetically pure trout upstream where they can keep being pure, and it kept the mixed trout here in Miller Creek from getting up there and hybridizing.
We need to make sure we don't get rainbow trout in here eventually. And then can we improve the habitat such that it's a great place for cutthroat trout to be? So what we've done here with a lot of the project is to make the creek channel a lot windier and to put structures that slow the water down. What these two things do is just soak more of the water into the groundwater table. So when water is underground like that, it stays colder. This matters for the native fish species. Our native trout really need cold water, and they start to suffer. They have respiratory distress when the water gets warm. We've put temperature loggers in here to measure the temperature, and we have seen a slight cooling of the water in the channel during the summer when the temperatures are the hottest. We didn't have the measurement in place before the project started, so it's hard to attribute the temperature reduction to the project itself, but it would be consistent with the work. And we've slowed the water down, we're soaking more groundwater, we're increasing shade. All of these things should help with water temperature.
When people choose to care for a stream, the effects reach beyond the water. They shape the land, the people connected to it, and the future of the place itself.
When I heard that the grant opportunity was available to put more vegetation down here in the creek, I knew it'd be a great way to enhance this whole environment. The previous year, it did not start flowing, or it was absent of flow for 14 months. This year, it was started flowing in mid-April, and it just turned off a couple weeks ago. But we were able to capitalize almost the entire flow period to have our planting in the ground. When we decided to do the planting, I knew I'd be doing a lot of the work myself and with a couple other HOA members here, but it was really fun to be able to get my kids down here. Wolf and Isla were, they get to enjoy the creek, and they got to take a lot of ownership in just helping out with this whole area by holding the plants while we took them out of the pots and then putting them on and watering them initially. They had a lot of fun with just all of that, and we always talk now about how they get to come and see where they planted those trees or those shrubs and everything, and then the additional work that we all get to do by coming down and watering just makes more time we get to spend down here in the creek.
A stream is more than water running between two banks. It is a living corridor. Left unrestrained, a stream will move back and forth across a landscape through the millennia to come. The quality of the water in the stream is dependent on land use in the watershed, where every action has an effect and eventually runs down to the stream.
Floodplain situation. The connection that people get through these community programs in their watershed just has this ripple effect that bleeds through and kind of changes who they are and turns them into real stewards.
Anytime you do this type of tear up,
some of these plants that we put in, we'd see something like 30% survival. With the labor that we get out of our volunteers, with their strong commitment, we see our survival numbers doubled up into the 60-70% survival rates. The sense of well-being that you find in a landscape that is being taken care of is a feeling that I think is very Montanan. Watching the momentum build and carry on downstream means that Miller Creek is in a good spot to maintain and improve its character and its function.
Really proud to be working on restoration in Miller Creek and representing the Conservation District, because I think we're going to have lasting changes that carry on into the future for future generations. People won't even know that this restoration occurred. It's going to change how fish and wildlife and the soil heals from the degradations of the past. It's going to affect recreation, and it's going to improve landowners' enjoyment of their property by seeing more biodiversity and getting to live in harmony with nature.
Oh, here it comes. You got it. Maybe in 38 years I've got to see that about a dozen times.